What is up, everyone? Welcome to the show. It is here. We're here also to discuss it. Can't wait to get into this. The Acolyte 2-episode premiere. We're going to be doing spoilers, but first and foremost, let's get the gang here. Eric's gone. We miss him already. We got Andy. We got Michael. And Eric is back. We've resurrected him. We've been talking about having Eric back for a minute now. There was a couple episodes where I even might have put it in the description because I thought it was going to happen. But now the stars have aligned. The galaxy has blessed us. Eric B is in the virtual building, and we're happy to have you, my friend. Welcome back. I'm going to start with you. How have you been, brother?
I've been great. Awesome to be back with everybody. Missed y'all immensely. I've been following you on the channels and just kind of listening into everything everyone has to say about all the preceding content. But, glad that life is opening up a little bit now and happy to be back in the discussion, hopefully to contribute.
No, absolutely, man. It's great to have you back, and sorry for all those things we all said about you on those episodes that you watched, for sure.
Hey, it's fair game if I'm not here to defend myself. It's just go for it.
Absolutely. No, jokes aside, welcome back. It's awesome to have you, and what a great week to come back. Andy and Michael, welcome to you guys as well. The Acolyte is here. I want to get general impressions from everybody before we get into the spoiler section. And then of course we'll dive in. There were 2 episodes, so keep it general, keep it vague, keep it spoiler free. But discuss what you thought, and I will start with you, Mr. Michael B.
I am, I don't know, pleasantly surprised. I'm happy. I feel like all of the hatred, shocker, was unwarranted. I'm really curious to see where it's going to go. There's not much to complain about at this point. I think there's some nitpicks here and there, but like nothing's perfect. So I'm happy with it. The music was cool. The visuals were cool. The story is interesting so far. So I can't complain too much.
Love it. We'll just keep going down the line. Eric, what about you? Same question.
Yeah, I was thoroughly entertained. Very happy so far with what I saw in the first 2 episodes. I thought the pace was great. I thought that they were explaining some of the backstory along the way, so you never felt too much in the dark. A couple of curveballs here and there to keep the interest peaked. But like Michael said, I thought it was visually very gratifying, and I believe that the script kind of flowed with the actors, so it seemed fairly natural to me. 2 thumbs up so far from me.
Hell yeah! What about you, Andy? What you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, at end of the line, kind of echoing all the same. I will say, I think that by the end of the second episode, I had definitely warmed up a lot more than where I started. I don't know if I had this sort of skepticism, kind of like with all the hype surrounding the Ahsoka show. I was so excited and like expecting so much, and I feel like there were some disappointments there. So when the show started, I'm kind of like aloof, like, I don't know, maybe it'll be good, or maybe I don't know, maybe I won't even care if it's not even good. But but by the second episode, yes, thoroughly entertained. The first episode was good too. Very entertained and very excited to see where we go from here.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm pretty much in line with what you said. The first episode had me a little, just kind of like, this is fine. I'm enjoying this. But again, it's a mystery. They've said that. So very much, you're gonna want to wait till it's done before you can really judge it. I have not been thrown off of the bandwagon yet. I've been enjoying it, and it ramped up my enjoyment in episode 2 quite a bit. And by the end of episode 2, I was like, okay, yeah, no, there's been some stuff that happened here that I'm very interested in. And there's some layers that I want to peel back. And Leslie Headland, when she was talking about it, kept referring to it as an onion. And I was like, yeah, I can see that. And I can see how there's a few, the biggest thing I come back to that I'm grateful for already is we're seeing some character development, and we're seeing characters that are ripe for development. So obviously I can't explain who or what I'm talking about in the spoiler free section, but like where a lot of times we are seeing characters that and characters that are more or less static because you know everything about them and they can't change. We're meeting characters that you expect to go on a journey, and I've been pretty pleased so far with some of the things they're setting up. Of course, you got to see if they stick the landing, but that's my spoiler free thoughts. I'm in it. I'm having fun. Is anyone off camera have anything they want to add or no? No. Last shot. All right. The voice of God has decided no. We'll go into the spoiler section.
This is your spoiler warning. Here comes the truth, gonna give you chills.
Oh yeah, we're trying stuff. I always forget the spoiler warning, so I hit up my friends in the AI department and I decided, let's see if we can cook up a tune, and we did. So okay,
Droid
spoiler
Gatra
time.
help you out there?
Yes, the Droid Gatra indeed. But I paid them, so I subscribed, so it's not slave labor this time. The Droid Gatra will eat me last. All right, same question. Let's get into it. Spoiler time. Let's talk about this show. I'm gonna start with. We'll do the same order. Michael, what'd you think? Spoiler time. We'll go episode 1.
So how far do you want to go through the plot?
Well, it's a great
What
question.
thing?
How do we want to handle that? You want to talk about what happened and then we go in order, or do you
So
want
I'm
to just
literally
throw
looking
out
at.
thoughts?
I've got the Wikipedia plot summary up. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
You're a
So
legend.
the first section of the first episode is the assassination scene, right? So we have who we find out is May, and she has this weird sort of fight thing with Indara, who I keep wanting to get mixed up with Indira Stokes from the High
Yeah.
Republic, but it's Indara. And just off the bat, we saw a lot of this in the trailers. Most of it, I think.
Andy and I saw the whole
So
clip in the
yeah,
in the
there you
movie
go.
theater.
So
Yeah.
so I liked it. I mean, I really liked the fact that she didn't draw her lightsaber. I think we honestly see that a little bit too much. In fact, they emphasize that later on in the show that like some of the characters are a little quick to pull their lightsabers out. It's like, dude, they're
Yeah.
unarmed or they're fighting hand to hand. Do you really need to pull out your lightsaber? Do you really need to do that? Because we
Right.
see that a lot later on. That's just kind of their casual lop off an arm kind of mentality.
Right.
So I liked Indara. I'm a little sad that they presumably killed her off really quickly, and also kind of pathetically for what we've seen lightsabers not do. That was one of my initial kind of was like, wow, that 2.5-inch blade did a lot of damage that a lightsaber doesn't seem to do. But all right, I mean, at least we're making changes here. Death is death, maybe. Hopefully, if she doesn't come back, we'll see. But I would be happy to see her come back in flashbacks because otherwise, it's kind of a wasted cameo. It was a really cool fight scene, but it was kind of just like, is that just a cameo? Is this just a kind of hook to try to get people going, or are we?
I'm
gonna
pretty sure we're going to
use the
see all of
actress?
these people quite extensively in flashbacks.
I think so.
That's what
Flashbacks
yeah.
and things, yeah.
But
yeah.
Eric, bringing you in, we're talking about the fights and the intro there, just that section. What'd you think of the choreography and just the Jedi of this era? What we've gotten to see, particularly in Indara.
No, I would probably agree with a lot with what Michael said. I think it was a great way to start off the series, especially in the first episode. It was a very action-packed first 5 minutes. I think you really after the opening pseudo crawl, if you will, you really see Indara representing the Jedi at the height of their powers, and so. Between Indara and even Saul later on. Well, that's episode 2, but it was amazing to see how kind of effortlessly she is in command of what's happening in and around her, despite what May's trying to do. So, I felt that the fight sequence was, aside from being exciting, I thought it was believable. I thought that her sacrifice and her death was pretty heartfelt. And I was actually really disappointed to see her demise so quickly, because I thought I really wanted to get more of what her backstory was, and we probably will learn a lot about it as the episodes go on, and I think that flashbacks will help move her character forward when you hear
Sure.
kind of all that happened on Brendock. But I think it was a great way to begin. Great way to begin the episode, and I was all in from the beginning.
100%. Andy, what'd you think? Same question, same area. Do you have any notes to add about the intro there?
Yeah, I did mention in the chat just that when there's real death in the show, it feels like there's real stakes. And I know that
Yeah.
it kind of gets like, what's the word I'm looking for? It gets like too much water. What's that word?
Gravity. Okay.
Over
Depth
too much.
over too much water.
It's
Flood.
Murky?
no, it's like people say this about, oh, there's too many Star Wars show. They're making Star Wars
Diluted?
dilute, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Back to what I was. Yeah, I thought it was cool. I loved the fight scene. I've said it before, and it's kind of like my thing that I grew up on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I just with like their martial arts and stuff, much less cheesy than Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But it was super cool. I like that scene a lot. I do agree that the sacrifice was super meaningful, and I'm also interested to learn more about her character.
I liked that it showed. I liked what it showed about May as much as I liked what it showed about the Jedi. So noticeable differences of the Jedi of this era versus the prequels is they're much more involved in their community. Like she's at this watering hole and everyone seems to respect her, and it doesn't seem like all of those people are like scum and villainy types or whatever. I mean, they're all just kind of hanging out.
They tried to
And
protect her too.
exactly, yeah, like she's respected and everyone likes her, and it's kind of interesting and very much. But seeing May, the performance of Amanda Stenberg throughout this is impressive. But seeing her deliver that first line of like, the Jedi do not attack the unarmed, which is like, oh yes you do, and I was like, okay, this is there's definitely some layers here, and that's sort of some of the character stuff that I was talking about earlier. The choreography was great, really enjoyed it. But generally speaking, I'm excited to dive into who the Jedi are at this point in time, and like watching May fight for her life there, realizing she is unable to keep up, and really holding on, and she's got to use a dirty trick to get out of it, and of course the Jedi are gonna fall for that, and it was. I don't know if it was cool is the right word, but it was fitting, and it was neat to see. It's neat to see the Jedi in their golden age, and I'm very interested to see how they start to lose their way in this show, and how that's going to happen. All right, so let's move on. You cut from that scene and you go back to you meet Osha waking up on the Trade Federation ship. She's working as a mechanic. What did we think of Osha? What do we think of the Nemoidians and that whole sort of intro to her character? Andy, do you have any notes on that? Gotcha. I called it.
Yeah,
Go for it.
I'll start. I don't know. Maybe I'm here. Woof woof.
Bork.
Work. Maybe I'm alone here, but I felt like Amanda's performance as Osha, not so much in the second episode, but especially in this first episode, it kind of felt like Disney Channel-esque.
Interesting.
Felt
Okay.
it felt kind of cheesy.
I
I was kind of
100%
like,
agree, Andy. Totally felt like a Disney
okay,
show, like a Disney kid show,
just
which I was there for, but like it did kind of totally did.
right. And maybe I'm just looking at the stark difference between May and Osha, but I mean, and it's definitely there, but it just felt really cheesy and flat for a while there. But
It was
yeah,
something
I
about the
got over
set
it.
design.
The
I don't
set
know.
design?
It's
I don't
funny.
know.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
funny
the set
because
design of the
you
filming.
say that, and I remember connecting. I remember liking her, but I like moments that happened later in this episode, and definitely in episode 2. So, and then I think back to that intro scene, and I just imagine like the applause when you meet a character on the Disney show when she wakes up, or like when her friend walks in, and it's like, yeah. I'm just imagining like
Oh,
Sweet
and
Life on Deck or something. Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
yeah,
That's fair.
and the little sidekick droid, it's cute, it's a classic, it wins, but I don't know, it seemed kind of tired to me, kind of. I'm not falling for that little droid yet.
He's
Very
not.
Disney.
He's not high on my list. What was that? That was creepy.
How does Lolo feel about Amanda's performance? I know she had some.
Well, I agree with you that this sidekick is very, very Disney. Everybody needs a little bestie to follow them around.
Yeah.
That's you.
Her performance, I don't know. I don't give a fair opinion because I don't like the actress Amanda Stenberg very
Right.
much. So I mean, it wasn't unwatchable. Like it was good. I definitely like her as May as opposed to Osha, and I can't tell if that's because I love a villain or because she just acts better as a villain. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat, but OSHA annoys me a lot less later on.
Yeah,
I
100%.
don't
I
know.
think it just
Something about like when May first starts to fight with somebody, that stupid canned line of "fight me with everything you have" or whatever she says. Like every time, it's so awkward. I really hope that they explain it because if that's just like an acting thing, I'm with Lolo. But I don't know. Like it really bothers me every time. It kind of just like takes it's a Disney Channel thing. Like it takes me out of the scene and like what is happening right now? Is this cheesy? Where's the
well, that's just it,
the
right?
crowd gasp?
There's a lot of moments like that, especially with OSHA, not so much. That's why I'm kind of just saying, like, yeah, that was probably a little silly. But with some of the writing things, I've seen people make noise about certain aspects of it, and I'm just like, guys, we just gotta wait and see. Like we just don't really know. We don't know what's going on. So yeah, Joe Ritchie, hey, we're doing good. How are you? Boring conversation
Hello.
anyway. Hey, we're gonna have company over here. No, welcome, man. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I'm having fun with it. I love seeing the Nemoidians again. That was a lot of fun. That was a good time.
Yeah.
But Eric, want to bring you in. You have anything to add for this scene, or we can move on to the next?
I think I was just a victim of maybe some literal interpretation, but I spent most of that scene trying to reconcile, the OSHA that's presented as the Mechneck versus what I assumed was the OSHA who was the assassin in the preceding sequence. So all the things that were mentioned kind of were in the background to me as I was feverishly trying to reconcile in my head just how psychotic this character is, that she's able to present these two different faces fairly naturally, I thought, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I was wondering how much marketing would play in because having the posters and seeing some of the trailers, they had really tipped their hand that it was the twin sort of angle, and then Lauren hadn't watched any of that stuff, and so she was kind of when OSHA tries to use the Force to get the droid in the prison break, which happens a little later on. It's like, whoa, she just used the Force, and I was like, I think it's a twin, but and then we got there, but yeah, it was kind of interesting.
I was hoping for like a Moon Knight type thing.
I definitely watched that show. Explain.
No, Moon Knight
No,
on Disney Plus.
I told you I'm out on Marvel. I haven't been keeping up with it. Take notes,
Okay,
internet. If you don't like something, leave it alone.
well, I would recommend it. It's worth watching. He has like a personality disorder. His personality splits, and when he splits, he doesn't remember what he did 5 minutes ago. So that's I was like, it's either a twin thing or that. And my Michael is notoriously good at predicting like the entire plot, the 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 plot twists and turns and everything. I was like, well, if it's her twin, what's the plot twist gonna be? He's like, I have a few ideas. I'm like, okay, your mind palace.
Yeah. Well, she did a good job of hiding the tattoo as well. So moving on from there, we meet it's Yord, right? Yord, yeah.
Yeah, Yord.
You meet Yord, who's he's just awesome. He's a big dork. He has a lot to say. I have a lot to say about him, but I'm very much interested to see how he develops throughout the show. Because when you meet him, he is just a ball of narc, and it's really fun to see. It's going to be interesting to see how he develops and how his personality at the start of this impacts the decisions that have to come his way. But then you meet his Padawan as well, whose name escapes me, but he's a Zygerian, so that was kind of neat. Neat to see live action Zygerian. That was pretty cool. They arrest Osha. They put her in a prison transport and take her back to Coruscant. Then there's a prison break. Anything of note on the whole prison break situation there? Does anyone have anything they'd like to talk about as far as that goes? Because I don't really have much of note at this point. If you got it, shout it out.
I just want to say with regard to Yord, I guess I was stumped for a good several minutes on how the heck he already has a Padawan. He doesn't seem to be very well experienced. He doesn't seem to, make good decisions. Pretty impetuous. Trying to figure out how he has a Padawan, one who presumably looks closer to age to him than you would think. So I was kind of taken aback by that, and took me a little while to, thankfully that the action sequence, it needed to happen, but it was really inconsequential in the long run. So I was able to kind of skip some of that stuff and focus on trying to figure out the whole Yord angle.
No, you're right. It is very Clone Wars, and I would think that Clone Wars would make something like that more of a necessity. Young knights having younger Padawans. But yeah, I'm interested to see how they explain that, or if it gets explained at all. Michael, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some inconsistency too, because I don't know how old the actor is, but Hannah and I both were kind of like, this guy looks rather old for how old he's supposed to be in the show, and it's kind of confusing if he was the same age as Osha. But then Osha was also brought into the order older than she would have been by special permission of the council, so there's something going on there. But I don't know. We looked at him and we're like, he looks like he's in his 30s, if not 40s. And so it would make sense for him to have a Padawan, but he certainly doesn't act like he's a full-fledged master. I mean, in that sense, it's a little bit odd. But then again,
he was a pretty bad Padawan if he's only been a knight for 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. And yet somehow all the Padawans are more mature and better. This, which I kind of liked. It's kind of funny.
It is. It's interesting. Again, a lot with the Jedi. I'm very curious. I want more before I can start, kind of diving in. But Yord is definitely one where, his allegiance to hierarchy is scary to me, because you wonder if he needs that because there's like some kind of turmoil underneath, or if he's just that much of a goody two shoes who is that naive. And so it's intriguing. And also the difference between Jeki, Soul's Padawan, who very much kind of clowns on Yord for being Yord, but also hangs on every word of her master too, and is very much, by the book. So I'm interested to see what the kind of material difference is between them as time goes on. Before we move on, our viewer, welcome, Joe Ritchie here, asked a question that I kind of want to address. That's not going to show up very well. Okay, so he's talking about, is the Acolyte a follower? He says Kylo Ren was a follower. Kylo and the Knights of Ren were servants of a faction of Sith. Kylo was not a Sith. I think the Acolytes are also a faction of Sith and also not Sith. What are your thoughts? I think yes. Basically you had the Acolytes of the Beyond from the books. I don't know if they relate at all, but yeah, Acolyte is a follower. So a lot of things people have been talking about right now is that, maybe there is a Sith apprentice who is trying to find themselves an acolyte or acolytes to follow them. And Michael, you're exactly right. He put in the chat that Asajj Ventress was an acolyte of the Sith, and that's more or less the role that I suspect that this character of May will play. But hey, we don't know anything right now, so we could be dead ass wrong. But okay, moving along. After that, we cut to where do we go from there, Michael? Mr. Synopsis. Do you know where we go after that? I'm trying to remember. I don't want to drop anything out, but I know after the prison
So
break, she
after the
crash
prison break,
lands. That's where we go.
cut to the Jedi Temple, and we
Right.
meet Sol, and we kind of get to see that scene from the commercial where he's talking to all of the Padawans, which I think they very conveniently tried to avoid the gaze of that one Padawan that can't close his eyes, which is really funny. The way the scene was cut was a lot better than the commercial, where it's like, close your eyes, immediately looks at some alien poor creature that doesn't have eyelids. Like, wow, that's kind of rude. Anyway, I thought that was funny. We meet Vernestra, which is really cool to see. And then she just sort of
Yeah.
explains the whole situation to
So
Sol.
hang tight for a minute, Michael. I want to get the non-High Republic enjoyers' opinions. What do y'all think of Vernestra? I'll start with Andy.
I was, not to disappoint, I was so distracted by how she looked. It was
Yeah.
just kind of like Blue Man Group, but green. Her makeup was so like shiny and unbelievable to me, whereas some of the other aliens look like out of this world, incredible. So that took me out a little bit. I talked with Ed a little bit about this, how she spoke. It took me out of Star Wars a bit because she spoke like she was in like NCIS or Law and Order.
Yeah.
It's like we've got the suspect detained. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. But say it
Like
funny.
that
Like
makes
say it
sense,
different.
but fit it. Yeah. Make it
But
Star
yeah,
Wars. Pepper in. Yeah.
it's a not complaint. I mean, she's fine. That I just couldn't get past, yeah, how she looked to me.
Interesting. Eric, do you have any thoughts about old Vern?
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with Knights of the Old Republic, although I've seen the visuals and I did appreciate kind of the homage to that era with the tunics and the robes and the color schemes and things of that nature. But Vernestra, I kind of got like a live action Yoda vibe from her. Like she walks in and you could be quick to dismiss her. You could be quick to underestimate her, but then there are these glimpses, these moments where you're like, there's like a complete badass under the surface there. Super powerful, very keen, very observant, very in the moment, very attuned to the force. And so I am, I was, kind of impressed by her, and I'm excited to see. I'm hoping that she has a moment or two where that actually really comes out, either in some kind of dialogue, or hopefully in some type of physical action sequence in which she kind of demonstrates a prowess, which I think is just simmering under the surface there.
Yeah, I asked the question because the High Republic heads, like she's 14 and she's really, really spunky and she's got a heart of gold, and I think she's characterized very differently. And now obviously it's been 100 years. Life happens, like I'm not mad, but it was interesting to see kind of. I mean, Michael, you seem to have a different face on, so maybe there's some nuance here. But
Yeah, some of us are a little bit more caught up on the books than others. You should keep reading, Ed.
Ooh, call
Man.
out. Hit
I don't
the
want to
call
spoil.
out.
I don't want to
know.
spoil
Hit
what
the
goes on there, but she grows up.
Well, there
man.
it is then. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
shoot. I don't know when that what book that happens in, but either way, it's been 100 years. It's changed her. I mean, she's gone as the top knot. I think she's filling the role of Yoda. You're exactly right, Eric. Like she is the she's the Hera Syndulla from Ahsoka. She's the rules right now. And it is kind of cool that it's not Yoda, so that way, we don't know what happens to
That
her,
way
and we
we
don't
can
know how
cameo
she's gonna
Yoda later.
act.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's that, but also it's like we don't know how it's gonna go, and it does raise the stakes a little bit.
Well, she kind of gives off a Mace Windu vibe to me. If I want to
Yes.
go back to, I mean, to me, she's the female version of Mace Windu, and so at least the way she was presented in the few number of sequences she
You're
had in the
just
first
saying
couple
that because
episodes.
she's bald.
No, I'm saying that because I think I'm ready for her to drop a few, Samuel Jackson lines on us and then start kicking some butt.
Say
You're
what
just saying that
again?
because she
Pulls out
has
the
a
light
purple
whip.
lightsaber.
Get to the
Oh,
whip.
she's
Get
great.
to the whip.
Lightsaber people
Right?
have a
Oh
type
yeah,
of
no,
people.
I'm excited for that. They dropped that in the trailer, and I'm like, this is pretty fire. Michael, you dropped in the chat that the actress is married to the showrunner. I did not know that.
Yeah, I looked her up
That's
because I
very
was like,
interesting.
who is this actress? She seems very like it's very strange for them to pick this person for the front and center. And I agree with Andy. Her appearance was a little bit like, I don't know, it just stood out in a way that took me out of the show a little bit. She did this weird thing with her mouth. And I don't want to pick on her specifically, but I was like, I don't know. That is weird. I'm gonna have to warm up to her as a character. I really hope we get to see her in action for sure. As for her character in the High Republic, so yeah, she starts off by being this Jedi savant. She passes her trials. She is the Padawan of not Elzar Mann, the other one.
Creighton's son?
No, not Creighton's son.
No, he's from the prequel. Man, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
It has been a minute.
Stellan Gios. Sorry, Stellan Gios.
Yeah,
So Stellan
yeah.
Gios, who is like the poster child of the High Republic, a couple
He looks
hundred
like
years before.
Jesus.
So
Like he looks.
yeah, so
like,
he's like the
yeah.
he's like the Jesus of that era, and she is his Padawan. She becomes a master as a teenager, and then she starts training Padawans as a teenager. And then some really terrible stuff happens during the High Republic era, and it really changes her. She becomes very disillusioned with the Jedi. She has some walkabout stuff. There's some short stories and things in the Tales of Light and Life, and the one that you're reading right now, Ed, I think maybe, or later on. There's some really great stories about her as she grows up, because she sort of becomes a fully fledged Jedi before she's grown up. And so while her Force powers are there, and while her abilities as a Jedi are there, she emotionally grows up very quickly after that. And it's very interesting to see where she's going to be at 100 years later as one of the sort of seasoned veteran Jedi who've gone through some of the really rough stuff that happened prior to this, not Sith related, but just galactic scale war and things like that. I'm curious if she's on the council, because the way she was talking, I agree with Eric. She was very playing a very like Mace Windu kind of a role. Like, are you representing the whole council the way you're talking? Because it kind of feels that way. Feels like you're in charge, but if not, you're just a master. Why are you in charge of Master Soul? You guys are both masters. Like, age doesn't really have anything to do with it here. So I thought she's a council member, but they haven't said yet.
Let's talk about Soul though, because like this dude is awesome to me. He's my favorite character so far by like a long country mile. I love the performance. I mean, it's just amazing. All the nuance, all the things he's baking in to his performance. I'm very intrigued. But also, and Joseph, I saw your comment. We are going to get to that. That's the element of, in Michael, you posted it in the chat. Yes, he is hiding something. I think that we're gonna see a side of the Jedi that it's going to, the question of kill a Jedi without a weapon. Like, we're talking kill their reputation. Like right now, everyone loves the Jedi. They're at their golden age. They're at their peak. Like, I'm interested to see what happens here, because he is clearly hiding something. We don't know if he is come to terms with loss, or if he has convinced himself that he did the right thing. The comment that Joseph left was talking about Torben in episode 2. How he chooses the poison for absolution rather than confess to what whatever he did on that in that flashback in Days Gone By. And yeah, like clearly something went wrong. Something went very, very wrong. And I am enraptured to figure out what that was. Yeah, he Joseph says he disliked the Jedi killing himself immensely, and I think in a vacuum I would agree. I don't, you know, I'm not on my always sunny suicide's badass. Like we're anti-suicide here on program, but yeah, I think it really speaks to the gravity of what might have happened in those flashback sequences. And clearly they're all aware, like Indara, she doesn't draw her lightsaber until she sees it's May. And then she's like, oh, let's fix this. And Soul, even we talk about in later in episode 2, like he is going out of his way to make sure that Osha is nowhere near her sister. So yeah, very, very interesting. It looks like the Jedi are doing some damage control. But I've been ranting. Let's move into talking about Soul a little bit here. And at this point, if we keep crawling through the plot, we'll never see the end of this because there's so much to say. So we'll do characters and we'll just let the conversation go as we like. So Eric, you were very excited when I was saying that I loved Soul. What do you want to add on that?
No, I just felt like I felt like his character and the actor's performance carried the episodes. I think you see an almost perfect representation of what the Jedi are supposed to be. And I recognize that there's something going on under the surface. There are many allusions, references, and indicators that the Jedi are not perfect, and that and that they make mistakes, and that their mistakes have huge consequences, and they have to carry those burdens with them. But I thought that Soul, you really kind of see, the gentle, peaceful side of the Jedi, but then there are those moments when you realize that he is a real master, and maybe those lighter moments are just kind of the finer side of somebody who has a little bit of edge to him. And we don't get a lot of that. We don't see it outright in the episodes per se, but I'm excited for where his character is going to go. And it really, I think the viewer and his question, I really think it speaks just to the reality that the Jedi Order really spends a lot of time teaching people either how to deal with the not so fine points of who they are, or to suppress the things which would lead them in otherwise directions that a common person stumbles and bumbles and falls in their normal life. But we should never forget that just because they're Force users doesn't mean that they're infallible or they're perfect. They just have a few extra skills and they have an organizational structure that helps them kind of overcome, whatever their own limitations or, negative predispositions would happen to be. And I think we start seeing some of those chinks in the armor, through many of the conversations. And then even the backstory of where the story is going lends itself to something where, the Jedi have, done things which, may have caused more harm than good.
Sure.
And nobody wants to admit that, but that's certainly what comes out clearly to me.
I mean, people just cavalierly using the mind trick. I mean, it's so invasive and odd to me it always weirded me out that was a good side power just because Obi-Wan did it that one time in the movie. Like the video games since then, it's always just been like, oh yeah, just mind trick them, and it's like, it's wild. You're rooting around in these people's heads and you see how little the people who have it done to them appreciate it.
Yeah. I think Saul, though, and I may have gotten off track, but I will say this: I think Saul is pure of heart. I think that really comes out in his conversations with his Padawans, with Yord, with Master Venestra, who's obviously senior to him in some type of bureaucratic way. But I think of all the characters, he seems to be the most pure to himself and to his own spirit that maybe some of the others are, who are caught up in politics or like, hey, how do I have to perform now that I'm a Jedi Knight? I think that comes out with Yord. Maybe some of those insecurities and some of the naivete that comes out in the younger Padawans. I think Saul is really kind of the. I think he's the guidepost for everybody so far.
Yeah, and I mean, like
I
everyone. Oh, sorry, Andy. Yeah, go ahead. I'll bring you back in.
I was just gonna say that I agree, and he just has I don't know, his presence seems I imagine the presence of a master's would be is very safe and powerful. And I can't remember specifically the interactions he had with his Padawan. I can't remember her name. Je-
Jackie.
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 Jackie,
Yeah.
and conversations with May. I do agree that I just see like a pureness in his face, and I love the master apprentice relationship and that dynamic that's explored in other pieces of Star Wars. And I even felt emotional watching the fight between Soul and May, and we don't even know exactly what happened, but just seeing their presence during that fight was, I felt like it was really powerful.
That's one thing, just briefly aside about this show. Like, I can tell that I hope that once it's done, it will give extra nuggets upon reviewing, repeat watching, where I can't say, it would be foolish to say that this is on the level of Andor at this point, but Andor wasn't on the level of Andor 2 episodes in, right? It took a while to get there, and I think this has the potential, the building blocks to be closer to that sort of benchmark. Um, yeah, I really love that Soul. You talk about his kindness. He is definitely pure of heart, like you guys are saying, but the material impact of he is exuding that to himself, Michael. I'm going where I think you want me to. Um, he is portraying that, and I don't know if he's convinced himself of that or if it is more sinister. But where I'm going with this is, either way, the material impact of some of these Jedi's decisions are clearly negative, and you can clearly see it that way. I think of, Michael, how we've talked on book clubs before, where you talk about characters being written into impossible decisions, and you can't really disagree with their choice, but you also can very clearly understand how someone else would be, hell bent for revenge, and this, that, and the third. Um, Obviously, we don't know what happened and if the Jedi are purely villainous, but I would be willing to guess that the Jedi are not making an evil choice here. I think it's going to be one of those where they think they're doing the right thing, but it clearly has disastrous impacts. But Michael, you have some things to say, so please, the floor is yours.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how this is gonna go and be more of sort of a horror twist, murder mystery kind of a thing. I don't know if Soul is pure of heart. I agree that he's exuding that he seems like he's the model Jedi, but there's some weird inconsistencies with what he's telling people and what he seems to know and understand. And either it's because you're right, he's just going with it. He's the most accepting of how things have gone and he's just trying to make them right, or he is really good at hiding what is really happening and he is actually sort of behind the scenes, like he might be the mastermind of this whole thing. I would love for him to actually be, me, I love a good solid light solid dark kind of a contrast here, but I wonder, I'm just trying to imagine maybe he's actually the bad guy. Maybe he
That's
actually did
yeah.
something intentionally bad and that's why he's the only one who seems to know what's going on between all the different people. I also think whatever happened, it had to have some immediate bad consequences because that other Jedi, as we pointed out, as soon as he saw who May was, he was like, "Yep, this was so bad that I deserve death." Whatever happened, and whatever he let happen or whatever he contributed to happening. And so Soul, on the other hand, seems to be just la 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 la, going through life, and he's happy and positive. I'm like, something's sus. I don't know. I don't.
I don't know about happy
I
and
still want to.
positive, but yeah.
I would love to see him just be a solid, good, really great, positive example of the Jedi, but I don't know if I buy it for this series yet. We'll see.
I'm with you that I
Well,
don't think there's going to be a solid light in the darkness. I don't think you're going to find that unless they're young and they die. I think this
yeah.
is
Jackie,
going to
no.
be, yeah, right. Like that's the type of thing I'm saying to watch for. I think this is going to be a murky show, and again, like Leslie Headland said when she was talking about it, like the she's making the good guys the antagonists of the show. And so, you're going to start to see that stellar reputation start to crumble and have cracks. And I think of some of the ways Markion Rowe and the High Republic is written, to talk about undermining the Jedi sort of mythos. And how do you do that? You overwhelm them with suffering. You make them have to make impossible decisions, and you can't just you make them compromise themselves to choose between the lesser of two evils. I think of the whole Star Wars fandom right now. Like, it's hard to objectively discuss some of these shows and things when you find yourself, so hyper polarized, because there are parts of the discourse that are so toxic and so irrational with the hatred towards these things, where you find yourself maybe kind of like defending the show more than it deserves, but it's not nearly as bad as some people are talking about it, right? So you stick up for it, and then you almost seem like you're a super fan when that's really not the case. And so it's what I'm trying to say by that is, like, you run the risk of compromising yourself to make the best of a bad situation. And if someone like the Sith are manipulating circumstances that way you're always in that spot, you never get a chance to take a breath, recalibrate, and find yourself and center yourself in the Force, which is what's so important to these Jedi. And so I'm interested to see how that plays out.
Well, we already know it's whatever it is. It's really bad because you have one Jedi Master who's taken a vow, basically to meditate, and not interact with the world, and then you have another Jedi Master who's sequestered himself on a forest planet,
Right?
all
I
by
love
all
the
by
Jolie
all by
Bindo
his
vibes, man.
all by his lonesome. So I think we already know that whatever the four of them did on that on Brendock, it had just kind of catastrophic consequences for who they felt they were.
Yeah, I loved Andrew in the Discord. Shout out to the Discord. Join the Discord. It's a lot of fun. We have fun over there. Andrew pointed out that Kel Naka at the end of episode 2 is very much giving Jolie Bindo and the Shadowlands of Kashyyyk from KOTOR, and I could not agree more. It made me very happy. Also, seeing a Selkath was really, really cool. I was very excited by that. I even busted out my I was like walking around having fun. I played the Manon theme music. It was fun. It was nice to be back in KOTOR, even just from the little technician off in the corner. I love me some KOTOR. Let's move now to talking about May and Osha and their relationship, because it's set up to where you're mostly focusing on Osha's point of view, and then you see what May does. And so the implication is that May is messing with Osha. And then later on, when they meet, you realize that Osha does not, or May does not know that Osha survived. So clearly she wasn't the one doing that. So what are some of our thoughts there? Do we think this is like a forced dyad situation? Do we think this is like, Snoke or Sidious, kind of, I love the cameo, playing and manipulating the situation, or what are our thoughts? I want to gauge the room, and I'm going to start this time with Andy. Do you have any thoughts on that dynamic?
Oh no, I don't know.
Okay,
You're talking
then
about
that's
like the
fine.
dreams that she's having
Yeah,
when
like
she
the
wakes up.
dreams are like it's giving Last Jedi, and I'm
Hmm.
curious, how that relates. If you don't have anything, I'll kick over to Michael, because Michael always has something, especially when you invoke the Last
Yeah.
Jedi and the
Well, and I
mysteries
don't
of the
know.
Force.
I do think it's like I'm always paying attention. I think it's strange and weird and fascinating when little May or little Osha is on screen, and the black eyes, the horror
Mm,
elements. There was a funny moment when you first see when when Osha is on the cold planet that she crashed on,
mm-hmm.
and
Hmm.
May appears, and then she like skitters away. Me and Michael laughed that it looked really creepy because we didn't know it
It
was like
did.
a child like lumbering away. I was like, oh, is this gonna be like horrific? I love that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
spooky. It was definitely, and then when her eyes went completely black and everything, that was definitely a
Mm,
little unnerving.
where we're
But
going? I don't know.
Michael, do you think this is a forced dyad situation? Do you think they're just that
You
powerful?
know,
Maybe.
until you said that, I hadn't really thought about it, but considering the length that they have gone to sort of continue to establish or really pull together the Rise of Skywalker, yeah, I think it's a valid question. I don't know if it's fair that they're a dyad if they're just twins. Um,
Maybe
I don't
that
know if
makes
that's
them
really a
even
dyad or they're
stronger.
just like a Luke and a Leia, kind of a very powerful Jedi. I I don't know because we've only seen 2 episodes. There's so many possibilities for what could be happening
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, um, it's possible that Soul is not lying and that he's totally legit and was shocked to find out that she's alive. The tattoo on her head could have some serious significance. She could be a clone. She could be a some sort of a force reconstruction or something like that. We've seen the witches in the trailers, so she could easily be something that was resurrected or sort of being controlled. What I find interesting is that Osha seems
Well, she's got
very
that. That's the tattoo. It's the same
yeah,
type
there's a
of
tattoo on her forehead,
mark
right?
there.
So
Yeah. So
what I find interesting is that Osha is very content with who she is, where she is. She feels very confident that her decision to leave the Jedi was hers. She seems to be very confident in her abilities as a mechanic and really actually enjoys the job. She's not really complaining about it like the other guy is a little bit. And they're like, oh, really? And
mhm.
she seems very proud of that job and what she's doing. Whereas May is very in what's the word I'm looking for? Why can't I think of the word? Anyway,
Diluted.
she's just not.
Shut
She's
up.
constantly she's trying to prove herself. Um, and yet while she seems like she is a very capable warrior and she understands the Jedi and their weaknesses, it seems like she has sort of pointed out the weaknesses of each one of the Jedi every time she's fought them, and yet that's never enough. And every time she
Hmm.
approaches a battle, it's from this position of inferiority when it doesn't really seem like she deserves that. Um,
She just needs to
because
get
she's
some
very
respect for
capable.
herself.
So it's like she has the attitude of a child, like she is
Mhm.
less mature because maybe she is. Um, and she didn't know anything about May being alive, and it's very interesting that she thinks that she was the one that survived, not May, or
Right.
not
Yeah.
Osha. So anyway, this whole thing is very interesting. There's a lot of ways it can go, but with the witchcraft, there's almost always some sort of resurrection. Star Wars has that a lot with resurrection. So maybe she was resurrected, but she has sort of the temperament of more of a child because she was.
I'm very intrigued. I think I'm putting my money on Force Dyad. I want to see some of that, and I definitely want to see because that could be. I hope I'm wrong because I want something new, but that could be the type of thing where it is sort of like a Luke situation where they're like, "Oh my God, this is not good, guys. We need to do something. These guys are way too powerful, or they're connected with these witches, or who knows. I'm spinning out. There's too many threads, like you said, Michael. It's way too early. But that's a testament to the show. It's got us speculating. That's a lot of fun. Joseph Ritchie gave us some comments here. So he asked about the red lightsaber wielding stranger. We'll get into that. He's also talking about Kelnaka. Wookiees are 100 years old. Hundreds, excuse me. Chewbacca debuted in episode 3. Are we going to see Chewbacca in this show? Please no. Please no. Please no. We could. 100% timeline works, but please no. Please no.
There's like 5 or 6
Is
Jedi from episode 1 we could see at this point too,
Yep.
and I think they've pretty well confirmed we're not going to see them.
Okay.
Yoda in the High Republic, Yoda has also made a strong habit of just disappearing for long periods of time without telling anybody where he is. So this could easily be during that time that Yoda's just gone for a little bit.
That's what,
It's
is that
Just
what
okay.
hanging
Eric
out.
does?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
pulling an Eric. Yeah.
Yeah, the wisest of us. Yep, exactly. All right, so Eric, that's as good a segue as any. Bringing you back in here, we can talk about a few of the loose ends that we have yet to discuss. So, the mysterious stranger at the end. Do we think that's a Sith? Question one. If so, do we think that's the Master or the Apprentice? What are our theories right now?
I would definitely a Sith.
Okay.
And uh, I would say probably an apprentice if I were to have to pick one over the other. I mean the Darth Bane trilogy kind of goes into the Sith of old. Your acolytes were Force users aligned to the dark side. And there were a lot of acolytes in that. I mean, there were more masters and apprentices kind of in that realm as well. But I think the best 2 minutes of either episode was the end of the first episode when you finally hear the antagonist's voice, and he kind of explains what's going on and the purpose and the power of what an acolyte is. So I think it was. I'm excited. I want to see more, get to know more. Probably won't. Probably be left wanting in terms of how much we can learn and get to see that individual. But I'm certainly hoping for more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're exactly right. Does anyone disagree with Eric? Does anyone think it's the Master? Does anyone think it's not a Sith? No.
I don't know if it's a Sith. I don't want it to be a Sith. Only because I don't want the Jedi to come into direct interaction with the Sith. Not that Yoda and Mace Windu, or Mace Windu specifically's comments about the Sith haven't been seen in forever, and Yoda's over here going, well, I don't want that to be true. I would rather they keep that continuity that the Jedi haven't seen the Sith in 1,000 generations or whatever it was. But we'll see. It's not going to give me major heartburn either, because we all know that they were around. Obviously, they had to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like, Kiadi-Mundi is the one who's like so confident. He's like, they've been extinct for a millennia. It's like he seems like the type of tight ass that would totally just drink the Kool-Aid on that and be like, oh yeah, no, they're definitely gone, for sure. Sweep that under the rug, because the Jedi do that all the time. They did it in the High Republic, right? And it bit him in the rear end then. Travis Mitchell says, how's it going, everybody? We're doing good. Welcome. It's good to see you. He's digging Master Soul, and we have established that Master Soul is awesome. He's the heart of the show. Get it? Okay. All right. Other dangling threads I want to talk. Thank you, Andy. That was appropriate. Kamir. Let's talk about Kamir in episode 2. What do we think about him? He's an interesting guy. He knows the Sith code. He talks about it enough to where he's annoyed May by it. What do we think? There's more going on there? Is Kamir actually the Master? We don't know. Some people are theorizing. Eric, what do you think of Kamir?
Think that.
Oh, Andy, go ahead.
Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, I didn't think he was a master. I thought he was just cutie pie.
He is cutie pie. You can be both. You see young Sheev?
Yeah.
Whew.
No.
All right, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, not really sure. Again, going back to what I've some of the novels that I've read in the past. The dark side has they have some hangarounds. They have obviously the Sith will create, and they will use and manipulate and recruit and throw away any number of people that meet their needs or serve their plans. We know that there are plenty of Force sensitive people throughout the universe who never make it into the Jedi Order. Heck, I mean, there's a Jedi Padawan who leaves the Order. That's one of the stars of the show. So it's not beyond the realm of the possible that Kamir is another Force sensitive person who is somehow in the employ of whatever the tangled web happens to be. I'm not sure. Right. I mean, it's an interesting theory that maybe he's the guy behind the mask, and he's just he's got his public persona and he's got his hidden true persona. I'm not quite there yet on that one. I have to give
Mm-hmm.
that one some. I have to give that one some thought and kind of see how his character develops. But he has to have some he has to have some power or has to have some sway because May, who is strong in her own right, doesn't seem to diminish him. She doesn't minimize him in any way. She I think she looks at him as a competitor,
Mm-hmm.
which connotes maybe there's some level of we're equal in some way in
Right,
some
right.
shape or form. So interested to see how that'll play out.
And he knows some
And he
stuff too. He was like, I know where Kelnaka is, let's, so maybe he's got more going on than was implied. I think of the secret identities that Darth Zana and Bane had in those books, the way they blended in. It's kind
yes,
of, yeah. Andy, sorry, I
he
didn't mean
did.
to step on you there.
No, you're fine. And he did seem to fold very quickly when ambushed by the Jedi, but it all still seemed to turn out in his favor. He didn't really face any repercussions of that. So, yeah, maybe he
It's
is
very
more
Jar
in
Jar as a Sith
control.
Lord.
Yeah, totally.
But all right, so Michael, you made some faces. You ain't, you ain't effing with the boy.
I don't
So
I
what
don't
you
want
got?
him to be the bad guy. I think that would be lame. Especially how
I
quickly they
yeah.
Oh,
captured him. Like they had him. I thought the whole thing where they had that sting operation, right? They send Osha in to pretend to be May, and she gets a full confession out of him, or close enough
Yeah, I think
anyway.
he's playing
And then
along
he
for
he
sure.
calls who she is, and then he's like, no wait, leave me here, and she'll come back. And I'm like, and then the whole thing seemed ridiculous. Like, okay, sounds good, let's go. And I'm like, you just this guy was made the poison that just killed a Jedi Master and was complicit in this whole thing, and you're just gonna be like, let's just leave him. We'll just watch the building from afar. It's cool. Um, I thought that whole thing was silly. I mean, it worked out, so it doesn't matter. But I thought the whole thing was
It
a little
didn't.
silly
He
that
got
they
away,
didn't.
and the whole letting him off with a warning, I hope, was a ploy because ain't
Yeah,
no
because
way
I
you're
was,
letting
I was
boy off
so
with a warning.
stupid. Yeah, yeah. I would
I'm sorry.
hard rolled
Hey,
my eyes
I,
at
I
that. I'm like,
didn't I didn't
really?
use the bomb. I just made the bomb, guys. Like, what are we talking
Yes.
about here?
And he's
She
clearly
said it
I'm
was
just
working
for
with
like,
these people,
educational
right?
purposes.
Like he's
What?
directly
Sorry.
working with May. He
Yeah.
knows all this information. They don't interrogate him at all. They're just like, all right, well, don't do that again.
It is
Bye.
it is a
We'll be
weak
back.
point for sure. And I'm interested to see if it is addressed later or if it's just a weak point. And that's one of those things we'll have with the benefit of hindsight. I
I
want to
agree with
address a few.
Eric.
Oh, go
He
ahead.
he definitely had vibes as like a co-acolyte. If May is an acolyte, he also seemed like he was an acolyte. Or they're to some degree of the same level of authority, working together,
Yeah.
and also maybe competing with one another at the same level here.
They're both trying to see who's going to be the first level 5 laser lotus. That's for you, Michael. I'm glad you got that. Travis is talking about the Sith. He says Yoda said always two there are, no more, no less, implying that a singular Sith is not classified as a Sith. I think what we're seeing here is an example of that. I don't know about that. I think, the Sith always have two at a time, but, when one kills the other, there is but one, and they
There's
must
almost
find the
always
other
a
half.
third at a certain point, and then that
Right.
becomes the
Yeah.
second. Yeah, like they don't follow their own rules very well.
No, well,
mhm.
that's just it, right?
But
They're
it
always like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to be the one to change it up.
it is a fair
Um,
question though as to whether this is a Sith who's looking for his apprentice.
Mhm.
which was destroyed. The master, the apprentice. He says also that Kamir looked like the lead singer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers or Ezra Miller, and I get that. Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
I also agree that he looked like Ezra Miller. In fact, I thought that's who he was at first. I was like, really? I'm like, oh no, he's different. Okay.
Oh my
Hey, that's
gosh.
an odd choice.
Oh my gosh, Ed, in the first episode during the prison break, the prisoner that was like the bad one that had a parasite on his face, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know who I'm talking about? Me and Michael
Yeah.
were on the edge of our seat because we thought that that was
Always
the actor
Sunny.
that plays. Yeah, that we thought that was
Dennis. Yeah.
Dennis Reynolds.
Yeah. Yeah, I did too. I thought it all the way through the trailers. I was like, why is nobody talking that Dennis Reynolds is in this show? Like, where's the buzz? And then I IMDb'd it as well. And then they got to the interrogation scene. I was like, oh, it is a different guy. Okay. But yeah, I was like, oh my
It
gosh,
was
they got
uncanny
Dennis.
for a second.
You can't let me out of the prison because of the implication. It's very important. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, I think this is a good point where we can go around and final thoughts, any intriguing things. Michael, you have some notes you've left in the chat here. You want to talk about the janky timeline? Point it out, please.
Yeah, did anybody else find that strange, the timeline in the first episode? So Osha gets incarcerated, right? They put her on a ship, and then the master and the apprentice, they go back to Coruscant. So she's going from Nar Shaddaa, presumably to Coruscant. They go to Coruscant. They get there first. Her ship, they have a prison break. The prison break happens. Some people get transported all the way back to Coruscant. She's crash landed on the planet. They find out about it because they have the other prisoners. They've already captured them from wherever they were going, already brought them all the way back to Coruscant. They're like, oh, we're going to send probe droids over to this planet where she's on. I don't remember what it was called, the planet that they know she crash landed on. The probe droids go there, come back, bring them back information. Then the Jedi go, they get everybody together. Then they go there, and then she wakes up, flashback or whatever. She has a flashback. Then she wakes up, and then she walks away, and they catch her at the exact moment. Like, she presumably wakes up very quickly after she crashed, but it's weird. Like, she would have had to have been unconscious for probably days for the amount of hyperspace travel that's occurring, at least as according to the rules of hyperspace as we know it.
Rules of hyperspace.
I know, right? The rules
of hyperspace.
Right. I know it's a plot device that works however they want, but I just thought there was a lot of stuff that happened between the prison break. I don't know why they didn't go at the same pace, or why they didn't stick with the prison ship if she was bound for Coruscant anyway. But they seemed to like leave at the same time. They went to Coruscant. The prisoners broke off. They went to Coruscant, and then she crash landed on the planet at the same time. And then they went back to find her, and then she just woke up at that exact moment when they landed.
Yeah.
And they chased her around and caught her. I was like,
no,
this
like,
is a lot
like
of very
it,
convenient and very confusing timing when they could have found her on another planet or somewhere else, or caught her somewhere. It's almost like they wrote this extra part in when they could have just been going to meet her there, and then they found her on the planet, crash landed. I don't know. It was odd.
Yes,
I did not notice that.
That's what I'm chalking it up to. It's one of those where if you itemize it and you look at it, the timeline doesn't quite line up, but there are a lot of things where it would have been weird pacing wise if they had cut it a different way. And so I think we as viewers got the benefit of just enjoying that. And
I think it would have made
for a little while.
It would have made so much more sense if they just didn't have that stuff on Coruscant. If they were planning on meeting her ship, rendezvousing somewhere out in space to take captive, and then they ended up catching the prison break people. They caught them, interrogated them, and then went back to get her after they saw that the ship had crashed. It would have made a lot more sense than going back and forth between Coruscant and there multiple times. I'm like, you're in Nar Shaddaa, you're in the Outer Rim hut space. It's like very far from Coruscant, not even off a direct route. Like, it doesn't make sense that you can do this in just an hour or very quickly.
Well,
you can't just jump back and forth.
In fairness, we don't know that they were in Nar Shaddaa. They went to Nar Shaddaa when she was still on the freighter. So, as long as we're splitting hairs. But you are right that it is janky.
They did say she was in didn't they say she was in Corsac?
Corsac,
yeah, which is far.
Which is a sector of space, which is far. Yeah. You're exactly right. But yeah, I'm just saying. So look, yeah, they could have had Vernestra.
The nerds are here. We're paying attention.
Michael. These are not the timeline anomalies you're looking for.
It's lazy writing is what it is. It's bad. No, I know you're not saying that. It's odd. It's definitely something that if you look at it and put a fine-tooth comb on it, yeah, it's not gonna line up all the time. And then it could have been massaged. They could have what they really wanted to do was show Coruscant, and so they probably looked at that
Oh
timeline
my
and they were
gosh.
like, we want to see that
Speaking
temple.
of, well, and they, I mean, they easily could have written it that way. But speaking of Coruscant, did anybody else love the like 1950s film grain vibe when they showed Coruscant? Like that establishing shot was very artistically done in a way that it looked like kind of old movie shots of like New York City or something in the
It was
heyday kind
cool.
of thing. I was like, I love this. This looks so cool.
It was very, very cool. I really, really loved it. It was awesome. I like seeing how the city hasn't quite caught up to the Jedi Temple either. Like there's a nice little metaphor there about them getting swallowed up in the politics of Coruscant, right? I mean, it's kind of neat.
I
Okay.
also do agree with one bit of criticism the internet has given about Master Torben and his really fake beard. They could have done better. That was pretty bad. I don't know if anybody else
Fair enough.
was
I
like
liked.
this guy's beard very fake.
That's true. He did. Yeah. I wasn't taken out by it, but I do agree that probably it didn't look real. Mr. Chapman, grow a better beard. Work on it.
Did did you
Rogaine.
guys already say, and I missed it, about I thought it was cool to see a different Jedi temple.
Mm-hmm.
You already said that?
Yeah. No, we didn't. That's a great point.
Oh, it was
It's
so
awesome.
different from the Coruscant temple. And
Yep.
I don't know if that's been shown a lot in Star Wars and I just haven't paid attention, but it kind of felt new for me to be in like this different, it looked almost poorer environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
More
was
tapped
cool.
into the community. It's more reflective of where they're at. That's
Exactly.
what we're talking about, the Jedi of this era. In the Old Republic, you had different Jedi enclaves on different planets. They weren't just on Coruscant, and in the High Republic, they had outposts all over the place. And the book that just came out, The Living Force, is set right before Phantom Menace. You see them shutting a lot of these down and pulling them back toward Coruscant. So yeah, it's interesting to see them change, and I think what we see in this show might affect that as well. But yeah, exactly right. It was very cool to see.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have anything else they want to leave the people with? This is your chance to pick up any of the crumbs that we left. We didn't do a very perfect by the books through the plot thing. So any other dangling threads that we want to discuss before we come back for episode 3? I'll start with
I don't feel
you,
like we
Eric
spent
B.
enough. No, never mind.
Yeah, wait your
Go ahead,
turn, Michael.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, never
I was
mind.
just
Go
gonna
ahead,
say,
Michael.
I don't think we spent enough time talking about Jackie. I thought Jackie was, to me, Jackie was the best character, both acting and writing, and as a character in the show. I was like perfect by the books Padawan, but also submissive to her master and very well, by the books, but capable. I really liked the character. I thought there was a cool
Yeah.
alien species. We haven't seen her species
She's
before,
a
I don't think.
Thelan hybrid is what
Okay,
it
okay.
was described. So yeah, she's a Thelan that they
And
wanted to make a little easier to.
Hey, I
you know.
mean, I'm all for it. Give it a reason and then go with it. Sounds great. Better than just
Yep.
like saying, "Oh, this is a Powin," and never mind.
Yeah, their heads are
I
squished
like
now.
Jackie a lot.
Their heads are
I'm
squished
happy to
now.
see. Jackie
when
reminds me a
Michael,
lot of Obi-Wan from the Obi-Wan books with her master,
Yeah.
or with Obi-Wan with Qui-Gon, kind of a thing.
when
Mm-hmm.
Michael B, then you got to credit Soul, her master, has obviously fostered some sort of relationship and training where Jackie, is this Padawan that we can
Yeah,
admire.
like Anakin's
Just saying.
master.
This is what
Palpatine. Oh, what?
this is what I'm
Sorry.
saying. Like, well, I don't know about that, but
Rise of the Red Blade, like what with the kind of master that she had. I don't know. It affects things.
So I do like, I like where that could go, but I don't want it to go there. I think I
It's a very slippery slope.
yeah, there's a lot. Well, that's one of the things I want to say is that the philosophy of the Jedi will be something that we keep coming back to in this show, and I want that to develop as we keep watching it. But I'm scared because the way she idolizes her master, like that's set up for if Soul has a fall from grace moment, like clearly she could be very traumatized by that and very affected by it. So it'll be very, very interesting to see. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, 100%. And I agree with you, Andy. It's very interesting to see how all the different Jedi act so divergently, right? Like every single one manifests that they see the Force in their own way, especially at this time in the canon. And so it's very fun to see such a heterodox Jedi Order at this point, and I'm interested to see what happens to make them so much more dogmatic as time goes on, and why Yoda decided to do it. Um, at this point, I'm going to go to you, Eric. Do you have any final thoughts, any dangling threads that you want to leave the people with?
No dangling threads. I'll just say that I felt like the first two episodes really delivered. It moved at a great pace. There was a lot. There was enough action in there. I think there was action intermixed with scene setting and storyline setting better than in some of the other series that we've looked at. And Andor is still my favorite series ever, but that had a
Yeah,
slow start. This did not have a slow start, so I am excited and have a little bit of trepidation about the next coming episodes because I'm hoping that we don't lose pace. I'm hoping that we don't take our foot off the accelerator. I only hope that we just keep popping it into a higher gear every episode, every couple of episodes, and we build. And I hope that the story lends itself to that, and we don't have some filler episodes that really kind of set us back because I think that the story writers and the director have really done, and the actors have done a lot to get us assimilated and acclimatized to a pace that I would very much like to see continue. So I'm excited
100%.
overall to see where it's going to be. Although the one thing I will say about the Jedi is, this may be the first Star Wars visual content that we have where we get introduced to kind of just average rank and file Jedi, right? If you think about the movies, think about the Clone Wars and a lot of the other stories. I mean, you're introduced to Jedi who are at the higher end of the Force wielding spectrum, the higher end of the power and decision making model, and now we're just kind of seeing knights and Padawans, and from
Yeah,
the books, everybody knows that not all those folk and creatures were extremely force sensitive or maybe maybe as smart or as decisive
yeah,
as
yeah.
that. So we just kind of have to balance that. At the height of the height of the order, there's 10,000 Jedi Knights that are running around campus. So not all of them are Yoda, and we just gotta. I guess maybe have a little bit of patience with those who seem to fall short of a standard that's been set for us in all the other media that's come before us the last several decades.
True.
No, I agree. I think it's going to be pretty neat to see such a wide variety of Jedi and how they all approach things. That's what I was trying to say earlier. I mean, I'm very, 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 very excited for it. Andy, same question to you. Anything that you want to say? Leaving it on the table. Anything you got left?
Nor I miss Bad Batch.
Yeah, I miss Bad Batch too. I wonder what the next animated show is going to be.
Oh, so
They're going to
excited.
announce something. And also dangling Star Wars news that we've totally ignored is Star Wars Hunters came out the other day. That new mobile game. I don't care about it. I don't know if anyone else does. They said it has Overwatch
I've
vibes. I don't know
heard,
if that's true at
yeah.
all.
I don't know if it's true. I'll have to check it out and maybe we do a video on it because if it truly does have Overwatch vibes, I'm gonna be on it. We'll see.
Yeah, if do a little digging, man, and if you like it and if it's that good, we'll chop it up. We'll talk about it. Yeah, I like where this is going. Again, I think it does not deserve any of the negativity that it's been having to deal with. I think it's been really great. I've really enjoyed it. I'm not willing to say it's actively amazing yet. I really like what we've seen, though. I think it's a lot better than. I feel less dubious about it than I did, Obi-Wan or Ahsoka. Like, I'm having to explain a lot less or justify a lot less until it's completed, right? Like, a lot of those shows, I always say, let's wait till it's done before we judge it. And that goes all the way up to the end. And then at the end, I'm like, geez, that was kind of a stinker, or it had a few moments that I really liked, but overall pretty forgettable. I have a suspicion that this one has potential to really have rewatchability. I find myself, like you said, Eric, always going back to Andor. I mean, that is just the gift that keeps on giving. And if this can approach that and have a more Force-centric feel and access that side of Star Wars, but still have that level of quality, I think we're in for a treat. That's a high bar to clear. I don't know if it'll be able to do that, but that's my hope. I hope that next week is an episode good enough to make me want to do a live reaction from a hotel room instead of waiting till Friday. That's how you know it's good, when it gets me talking about it in a Hampton Inn. So yeah, that's all for this week. We appreciate the heck out of you guys hanging out. Especially, shout out Travis, shout out Mr. Richie. It was fun hanging out with you guys, answering those questions. So thanks for stopping by. And hey, leave a like on the video, smash the subscribe button. YouTube stuff. Hey, we appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you.